Hello all, sorry the stream cut out for a second. Uh, yes, the stream cut out. I am coming to you from Boston right now where I am traveling and visiting, so apologies for the not being in the studio. But I want to come on and give you a just quick update about this North Korean news, which just happened a few minutes ago. This is Steve Lookner, by the way, and actually, let me see if I can. I'd love to be able to get this camera a little higher. Sorry. Let me try. Keep adjusting here. Doing this on the fly. Let's see. That seems a little better. So what happened today? We got just the reports that came in about half hour ago that the South Korean military initially reported this that Kim Jong-un and North Korea attempted a missile launch in North Korea, and the launch reportedly failed. It was attempted from the place where they did, I believe, multiple test launches on April 6th. It's a place in North Korea where they have a submarine base. And there's not lots of details about what exactly kind of missile this was and why exactly it failed. But these reports, multiple news outlets are reporting that North Korea did attempt a missile launch just recently. In the last hour, these reports came out, and that it failed. And interesting to note, this missile launch was attempted as Vice President Pence is actually en route to South Korea right now. He is flying to South Korea at the moment. And so there's a bunch of issues here, but one issue you might that is worth being brought up is that remember that President Trump moved in an aircraft carrier strike group to off the coast of North Korea, and China supposedly was trying to influence North Korea to not keep going with their tests, and there have been reports that the U.S. military might shoot down a missile if there was a missile test. And so the very fact that this is, and Mark Hertling said something like this on CNN, but the very fact that they tried the missile test, even though it failed, should be seen as them defying the U.S. And also, it's not that they tried a missile test. I think it's significant that they tried this missile test while Vice President Pence was flying into South Korea. Now, I think there's a chance they might try something else like a nuclear weapon test because they've supposedly been preparing for one and they're supposedly ready to do it. And I tweeted out something yesterday saying I think they might do it when Vice President Pence is actually in South Korea. But my question is, if it was the case that President Trump was planning on responding to them if they conducted a missile test, does the fact that the missile test failed, should that change that? So if this missile had flown like 700 miles, I think this would be even a bigger story it's a big story in the media, but I think it would be seen as even a bigger story than it is now. But the thing is, I don't know if it's relevant to the U.S. if it should be relevant to the U.S. responding to their doing the test, how much of a success the test was. Because their defiance isn't in conducting a successful test. Their defiance is in conducting the test at all, when we've told them basically don't keep doing this stuff. So we moved this aircraft carrier group in there. We've put out things, or it seems to be that we've put out things because we've heard these things reported. So that suggests to me there are leaks being put out from the military. It's been out there that it's on the table that we might shoot down a missile if it's launched. And yet, even with that out there, even with that threat out there, and even if that threat wasn't explicit, it's implicit by moving this aircraft carrier group there. Even with the implicit threat that a missile test, the missile being launched from North Korea would be shot down, they launched it anyway. Now, it failed, but they launched it anyway. So I wonder if when President Trump is told of this test today, does he say we should respond to this? Or does it change his calculation at all, given that the test failed? And another thing to really keep in mind here, I think, is just they supposedly, North Korea, are ready at their nuclear test site to do a nuclear weapon test. If they do that, that's a huge deal, but that could come soon, could come this weekend. Will that provoke a response from America? So we'll be watching and seeing. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the next day or so if there's a White House reaction to this. I'm going to check my Twitter right now to just see if there's any updates here and there's not much information. A point I heard made on TV was that when a North Korean test fails, they don't report on it because they don't want that information getting out there and they don't want to publicize it. So you're relying on like the South Korean military and American intelligence to figure out what happened with this failed test. So I'm guessing details might be coming in. It probably also it's going to be important what kind of missile it was tested. Was it a short-range missile of the kind they've tested before? Was it some sort of newer, longer-range ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile, which in theory they are trying to develop an ICBM that can reach the continental United States. So it could be an even more provocative test if it turns out that what was tested was some kind of longer range missile than what they've been testing. Let's see, and I'm just looking here on Twitter to see if there are any more big updates on what. Let's see. All right, so this is a bit of an update. This is from news_executive on Twitter. And their update is, this is an update from the U.S. Pacific Command. This is what the U.S. Pacific Command, a statement they released recently. It says, the U.S. Pacific Command detected and tracked what we assessed was a North Korean missile launch at 11:21 a.m. Hawaii time, April 15th. The launch of the ballistic missile occurred near Simpo. The missile blew up almost immediately. The type of missile is still being assessed. U.S. Pacific Command is fully committed to working closely with our allies in the Republic of Korea and in Japan to maintain security. So if this statement from News Executive is an accurate statement, and News Executive is usually pretty good on their accuracy, this would be the U.S. Pacific Command confirming that they tracked a missile test, then that the missile test blew up immediately. So this is coming from the U.S. This isn't coming from South Korea. So we have this from U.S. Pacific Command about the North Korea missile launch. Yes, and I have another breaking 911. I was also saying that the U.S. military is reporting this, and South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff is reporting that North Korea, a short time ago, attempted a missile test, and the missile exploded shortly after the test. But, as to repeat, just them doing this test, just them attempting the test, while one, we had moved this aircraft carrier strike group into the waters off of the Korean Peninsula very recently in the last few days, and two, they do this test while Mike Pence is flying into South Korea. That seems pretty provocative, and I wonder, my question, as I said before, is, if President Trump was planning some kind of response, say a military response, to Korean tests if they happen this weekend, does the fact that this is a failed test really change that? Because even though it's a failed test, it's still a test of a missile. And as a number of analysts have said on TV that I've been watching in the coverage today, that they do learn from failed tests in addition to learning from successful tests. So even though it's a failed test, it doesn't mean it doesn't help their program progress. And President Trump and Secretary of State Tillerson, there's been from the administration, there's been a hard line coming out in the last couple of weeks about North Korea, and I am very interested in seeing what the American response is to this test. So this is going to be a pretty short update. I'm going to stay on for about 10 minutes more or so. If you'd like to write in while we're on the air here, you can write in with any comments you have. I'd be interested in hearing what you have to think, what you think about this. You could email me at, best place to reach me is on Twitter, at Lookner, at Lookner. You can direct message me there, Lookner on Twitter, or you can email me at steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. I think somebody might have messaged already. Andrew Sova wrote in, Kim Jong-un is a whiner. He just wants attention. I wish we could focus on ending ISIS. Will this make our country go further in debt? So you're worried, it seems, Andrew, that this might lead to further military action and further spending. And you think we should be focusing on ISIS. Now, I will say, Andrew, someone might say in response, well, it's quite important if North Korea gets nuclear weapons that can reach the United States. We don't want them to do that. So somebody might say, we need to be focused on this as well. Thank you, Andrew, for writing in. Always appreciate your comments. I'm going to check if there are any other comments here that that I haven't addressed yet. Let's see. So not so this is a good point that not a Soros puppet writes and makes a good point. They just fired a missile, but it failed. I wonder if the rumor we have the codes is true or just a dud. So I think what you're referring to, not a Soros puppet, and I've heard some analysts talk about this as well. This is a very good point. That supposedly the U.S. is taking the U.S. is taking covert action against the North Korean missile program. There was a New York Times story about a month ago which talked about this, which said in addition to whatever you see publicly happening that the U.S. is doing to try to stop North Korea from developing their nuclear weapons program further, there's all this covert action which you don't see. It could have to do with breaking into their computers, hacking into their computers, other things like that. And something you're wondering, not a Soros puppet, is you're saying, does the fact that this missile test failed so badly, that it failed so quickly, might that be because the Americans and American allies have sabotaged the test in some way? Don't know. I have no idea, but that's certainly an interesting possibility to bring up. Thank you, not a Soros puppet. Once again, we are covering this breaking news that North Korea attempted a missile test. It seems about an hour ago is when it happened, and I should check the exact time. It started being reported about a half an hour ago, and I haven't done the cross. Actually, the missile test occurred. I'm going to tell you this. If I can figure out what. Hold on one sec. Korea time. Let me look this up. So actually, I'm sorry. So it looks like, let me look up North Korea time. Excuse me. Make sure it's the same in South Korea as North Korea. So it looks like it was about 2 hours ago, North Korea. Yeah, 2 hours ago is 2 hours ago is when this missile test happened. The missile was fired from North Korea. Not sure what kind of missile it was yet. The missile failed. Missile test failed. The missile exploded almost right after launch. We have that report from both the American military and the South Korean military. Oh, Christine, actually, thank you, Christine, for donating. Christine just made a donation. I just saw it go by. Christine Bestien, thank you so much. If you do enjoy our coverage here at Right Side Broadcasting, if you're new here, we rely on your donations to cover the news, to bring in alternative to the mainstream media. We go and cover the Trump rallies live whenever he has rallies. We interview the people at the rallies. We show the size of the crowds. So if you like that and you do want to donate, all you have to do is, we really appreciate it because it keeps us on the air. You can just click the $sign at the bottom of the chat room. If you click the $sign at the bottom of the chat room, that lets you make a donation. Very much. Christine, thank you for that. Very much appreciate it. Moderators, if I missed a donation in the chat, please let me know if you'd like, because I will give a shout out to it. And this donation is not for me, by the way. It's for the Right Side Broadcasting Network. So let's see here. Grant Maga's comment on the news that the missile test failed is just ha 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 ha. So that's what Grant wrote in. Thank you, Grant. If you'd like to write in while we're on the air here covering this breaking news, you can either email me at, the best thing to do is go to Twitter, direct message me at Lookner, at Lookner, or you can email me at steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. Speaking of email, I really should get my email up here so I can see if you have messaged me while we're on the air covering this. Let's see here. Okay, we're up to date there. We are up to date there, and I want to repeat in case people joined us a little late, because I know some viewers joined us late. A couple important questions here. One question I'm really wondering about is, will North Korea follow this up with a nuclear weapon test? Supposedly North Korea had been preparing and is ready to do a nuclear weapons test at the place where they normally do their nuclear weapons test. Preparations are complete. We don't know if they're going to do it or not. Will they do this, especially now that this missile test has failed? Will Kim Jong-un maybe think, I got to have a successful test, or maybe it was planned anyway? Will they do it, if they do it, while Mike Pence is in South Korea? Could you imagine if North Korea tested a nuclear weapon while Mike Pence was in South Korea? I was actually wondering, would it be, I mean, these blasts are very powerful. When you do a nuclear weapons test, it registers like an earthquake, like our earthquake detectors measure it as an earthquake. And I wonder, like, if they did it when Mike Pence is in South Korea, would Mike Pence feel the rumble, like, because you could feel an earthquake, from hundreds of miles away? So that's possible. That would be to me, that is a giant deal if they test a nuclear weapon while Mike Pence is there. But so that's one issue: is will they test a nuclear weapon in the next couple of days? Will they do it while Mike Pence is there? And a big question is, how does the U.S. respond? As I was saying earlier, there's been very tough rhetoric from President Trump and the administration, not only tough in the last couple of weeks about North Korea, and saying if China doesn't help us with this, we will solve this problem ourselves. Apparently, China is not helping much because I don't think China would have wanted North Korea to do this test today. So that suggests that China does not have a lot of power over North Korea, at least not have complete power over them, because if it seems reasonable that China would not want to prevent this test would want to prevent this test from happening today. And another question is given that we've had all this rhetoric from the Trump administration, this strong rhetoric, and given also the Trump administration, remember, they moved this aircraft carrier and this associated battle group of ships right off the waters of the Korean Peninsula in the last few days. And in spite of that, in spite of President Trump's rhetoric, and in spite of them moving all those ships, U.S. Navy ships there, they still try to test. So even though the test failed, in terms of defying the U.S., just the act of them trying to test is a big defiance. What will the U.S. do? How will President Trump respond? Will he change his response because this was a failed test or not? Will President Trump think that if he lets this test go unanswered, that sends a certain message to South Korea, to North Korea, I'm sorry. I guess I feel like maybe there's a world in which, because the test was a failure, President Trump and the Trump administration might feel, well, we can let this one slide. I have to think if there's a nuclear weapon, let me say this. If after this failed test in the next day or so, there's then a nuclear weapon test, so they do two different kinds of tests in like one day, especially if they do it when Vice President Pence is in South Korea. I personally feel like there's going to be some response from the American government, perhaps some small military response. Because at a certain point, if you put yourself out there and say, this can't keep going on, and then right after you do that, and you move these ships right next to the Korean Peninsula, and then their response is that they just conduct a couple tests, like they don't care, you have to show you can respond to that, or you lose face. At least that's how they might be thinking. So the American government, the Trump administration. So it's a big deal whether there's a nuclear test comes after this, or look, there could be another missile test this weekend. You don't know. Maybe they'll try a missile test later today. Maybe they'll do one tomorrow. So the question is, how does the U.S. respond? But I do think if there's a nuclear weapon test after this, to me, you definitely might see an American response. I'm not saying I'm for it or against it. I'm just saying, given all this language we've heard, I'll be really interested in seeing how the White House responds to this. Last I saw, there was no official response to the White House in terms of a statement or anything. I'm going to check my Twitter because this news is breaking. If you have any comments on this, you'd like me to read about this, feel free to message me at Lookner on Twitter, at LOOKNER, or you can email me at steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. Let me just check my Twitter. Let's see. So I'm getting the couple updates here. I'm getting an update. This is from Lim Yoon Suk, and Lim Yoon Suk tweets out, South Korea's National Security Advisor Kim Kwon-jin to hold National Security Council meeting in South Korea at 9:30 a.m. local time. Let's see here. Any other things? I'm not seeing anything about the White House response. Let me just, the U.S. Pacific Command released a very short statement about this. Let me read this again. I read it a few minutes ago. This is the statement from the U.S. Pacific Command about the missile test. U.S. Pacific Command detected and tracked what we assessed was a North Korean missile launch at 11:21 a.m. Hawaii time, April 15th. The launch of the ballistic missile occurred near Simpo. The missile blew up almost immediately. The type of missile is still being assessed. U.S. Pacific Command is fully committed to working closely with our allies in the Republic of Korea and in Japan to maintain security. So that's from U.S. Pacific Command. This is from Breaking News Live, Breaking N Live on Twitter. It says, President Trump has been briefed on the failed North Korean missile launch. White House statement to come. So as soon here as I see any kind of White House statement, a lot of times they'll do like a press release, not an actual human being saying something yet, but a press release. As soon as that happens, I will read it to you if I can. I'm just checking my Twitter here to try to get any up-to-date news. let's see. Okay, and I'm looking to see if you've written any messages here. This is from Tim Jong-il on Twitter. Tim writes in, "Hey Steve, in my opinion, North Korea's intent behind their failed missile launch should be the defining factor for USA response. That being said, thankful as always for Kim's failure to launch. Thank you for providing independent analysis via RSBN." You're welcome, Tim. Thank you for writing in. So Tim, you think that regardless of the fact that this test failed, you think North Korea's intent should be what matters. So you think that if America was going to respond in a certain way, say militarily, to a successful missile test by North Korea, you think, Tim, that they should respond similarly to this failed test. And this could happen. Don't think because the test failed, you won't see an American response. I don't know if you will, but as I said before, given that the administration put themselves out there, like let's take a step back. Remember when Obama made a red line on Syria and then they used chemical weapons and he didn't do anything about it, and people said the U.S. lost prestige, they lost credibility. I do think America and President Trump have put themselves out there the last couple of weeks and said, we're not going to let this stand with this North Korea. We're not going to let them keep developing nuclear weapons. If China doesn't help us solve the problem, we're going to solve it ourselves. We moved this aircraft carrier right next to North Korea and these associated ships. So to me, there's a risk that if this test, albeit a failed test, if this test goes unanswered, I mean, this is a test and it's a test while Vice President Trump is flying to South Korea. If this test goes unanswered, perhaps that lessens our credibility a little bit. Now, maybe President Trump just thinks, well, in spite of that, it's not, I want to hold off on a response for now. I can understand that view as well. But don't think that it's impossible that we could see some kind of U.S. response, especially if one was planned. Now, another thing is perhaps the U.S. is waiting to see what happens this weekend, next day or two, and seeing if there's, say, a nuclear weapons test before deciding what to do on this, or if there are any other missile tests. There could be. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. I'm checking here on Twitter, trying to frequently text and check and get you the latest information here. Nothing new yet. And I will check my messages to see if there are any messages from any of you. If you would like to write in, I would be happy to read your comments on this. I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on this news about the North Korean failed missile test. Do you think America do you think there'll be a military response to this in the next couple of days? What do you think President Trump will do about this? Will there be no military response because the test failed? So what are your thoughts on this? Let me know. Direct message me. I'm on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner, or email me at steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. Happy to read your comments on the air here. And excuse me while I keep trying to get you the latest news. Since this news is coming out, I'm trying my best to get you the latest as it comes through here. So we have another report here that the South Korean National Security Council will meet at 9:30 Korean time, which is quite soon, to discuss the missile launch. Let's see. Do we have any other news here? Oh, SEK just donated 111, and I don't know. I forget what this currency is. Lars Anderson, thank you. Sorry, SEK donated. Lars Anderson donated 111 SEK, and I forget, what is that? Is that Swedish kroner or something? I don't remember. Swedish krona. Thank you, Lars, so much. Lars donated 111 Swedish krona, and he said, blow fat Kim away. So I think we know how Lars feels about this issue, about what we should do as America. Really appreciate it, Lars. Thank you so much. As I said about Christine and both your donations, as I said about Christine's donations, Lars, donations like yours, they keep us on the air. We could not be on the air without donations from you, our supporters. We don't take donations. We don't take funding from people, big organizations that want to control what we say. So we stay independent here. But if you'd like to donate, we really appreciate it. It keeps us on the air. Thank you so much. If you'd like to donate, you can click on the $ at the bottom of the chat room that's going on YouTube. Click on the $. It makes it very easy for you to donate. Really appreciate it, Lars. Thanks again. Okay, let me check here, see if there are more messages. This is from Regina Payton. Regina Payton writes in, I think they will do a nuclear test while Mike Pence is there because the built-in deeper than what we have done. Sorry, I'm following along your message. So you can't measure the strength accurately. You need to go look up a show, One on Earth. It's a great show. I think, Regina, something might have happened with your message. There seems like there are a couple of words. So the first part is you think they will do a nuclear test while Mike Pence is there, and then there's because the built-in, it looks like a word or two got left out. So I won't attempt to parse this, but thank you, Regina, for writing in. And you think they will do a nuclear test while Mike Pence is there? We'll see. We'll know this soon because Mike Pence is supposed to get there in the next couple hours, I believe. That would be really provocative if they did it when Mike Pence is not there. When Mike Pence is there, I'm sorry. And personally, that's been my suspicion that's when it's going to happen. Let's see here if I see some more notes here on Twitter. Let me check. I think someone just sent me some sort of meme about Kim Jong-un. Let me see. Statehood Puerto Rico just posted Mr. Let me see if I can show this to you. This is what Statehood Puerto Rico wrote in response to us. Can I switch this here? Mr. Failed Missile. That's from Statehood Puerto Rico. Thank you, Mr. Statehood Puerto Rico, for writing in and showing us that. Hold on, let me fix my camera here. Once again, we're here covering the breaking news. North Korea attempted a couple hours ago to launch a missile test in North Korea. The missile failed, but it is a provocative test that they did, especially given that we have an aircraft carrier sitting right off the coast there. We got a message from I found this fish writes in, North Korea will not let themselves be seen as a laughingstock after this failure. Look for a nuclear test while Pence is there. So I found this fish, and I apologize. I'm traveling in Boston, so you might hear a dog barking in the back at the house where I'm staying at, my parents' house, actually. I'm visiting my family in Boston, so I apologize. But I found this fish. I agree that there's a chance that North Korea will not want to be seen as a failure after this test, and that because this nuclear test failed, I mean, they're probably watching CNN and everything, and they're seeing how this is covered. If they have anything they could do, like a nuclear weapon test or another missile test, which could be more successful, perhaps this will motivate them to do it, although maybe they were planning it anyway. So we will definitely keep an eye out and see if there are any more tests coming from North Korea, but that could be a reason that they want to do something else because they don't want their weekend's activity of testing to just be this failure. DC Roy writes in, after that fat child was told not to, he launched. Time for President Trump to get the paddle out. So DC Roy, I see something to this. I mean, the rhetoric from the administration the last couple of weeks to Kim Jong-un was, don't do this. And when you moved an aircraft carrier there, that was something that was never done in the Obama administration, moving that aircraft carrier strike group to the coast of Korean Peninsula and to that close distance. That's a message, and that's a threat. And in spite of that threat, they just did another test. So we could see a response from the U.S., even though the test failed, because the test itself is defying the U.S. and doing it while Vice President Pence was en route there. Let me just check something online real quick. Sorry, while I go out of frame for a second. I apologize. If you would like to write in, and I'm happy to read your comment on the air as we're covering this breaking news. And you can direct message me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner, or email me steve.lookner@rspn.tv. Philip Tim writes in, that fat Korean Gerber baby needs to take a permanent nap. So Philip Tim, I think it's clear where you stand on Kim Jong-un. Thank you for writing in, Philip. Regina Payton says, sorry, what I meant to say is that they built the testing site deep in a mountain so you can't measure the strength accurately. You're saying that we won't, it sounds like you're saying, Regina, is that we would have a hard time measuring the strength of a nuclear weapons test by North Korea, but I believe that we're pretty good at that in terms of, like, we can tell what the vibration of the Earth is. It comes like it'll. I remember the last time they did a nuclear weapons test in North Korea. It initially got reported as an earthquake because it'll make the ground set off. It'll make the ground shake so much that our earthquake detecting instruments will measure it. And I think it's the case that between the various measurements that America and our allies that the scientists can take, they can actually figure out pretty well how big the test was, even though they can't directly observe it. So that's what I believe, but maybe I'm wrong, Regina, but thank you for writing in. We have here, Lucy Rose wrote in, how do we know it was only a test? When is it not a test? Well, Lucy Rose, I'm guessing, they can. One way they could tell. So I'm trusting the South Korean and the American government that that was a test and not an actual missile. But one way you could probably tell is if they launch it just to the ocean and it's not going at anything, that would suggest it's a test. Also, I'm guessing when they see the explosion, they could probably tell if there's a live warhead on it or what kind of warhead on it. But probably just the targeting. I mean, when they test these things, they tend to fire them just out into the sea or the ocean or whatever body of water it is. So I'm guessing that's a way we could tell. But military experts have a lot more information on this than I do. If you'd like to write in, I'm repeating this again because normally when we'd be on the air from the studio, it would be on the screen all the time, but I know it isn't. So I'm just repeating. If you'd like to write in, I'd be happy to read your comment or your question. You could try to answer your question about this breaking news. Direct message me on Twitter at Lookner at LOOKNER or email me at steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. We'll stay on for a few more minutes here and cover this breaking news. And someone else, I think Lars just gave another 111 Swedish kroner. That's incredibly nice of you, Lars. And with the message, blow Fat Kim away. That is Lars's message as he makes his donation. Lars Anderson, thank you so much. Your donations, as I said before, help us stay on the air. We can't stay on the air giving you an alternative to the mainstream media news coverage without donors like Lars and like Christine from earlier. If you'd like to donate, you can click on the $ at the bottom of the chat room, and that makes it really easy to donate. Just click on the $ there. So thank you so much, Lars. Very much appreciated. And thanks for your messages as well. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on this. Not seeing yet any comment. Let's see here. Not seeing any comment from the White House. I will say this. This is a new report from Steve Herman from Voice of America. And Steve Herman reports Vice President Pence was in contact with President Trump, aides to the vice president told reporters. Vice President Pence was briefed on the situation in North Korea within an hour of his departure from Anchorage, Alaska. Reporters were informed of Pence's briefing as Air Force Two was flying over the Bering Sea, according to the onboard map. Air Force Two is currently en route to Seoul, South Korea, and is expected to arrive at 3:30 p.m. local time, 2:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So, okay, Mike Pence is going to arrive in South Korea in about 6 hours and 15 minutes. That's when Mike Pence is going to arrive in South Korea. He was en route on Air Force Two when this missile test happened. And so if you think that North Korea might test a weapon when Mike Pence is actually in South Korea, that would mean it would have to happen after 6.5 hours from now, because that is when Mike Pence is supposed to land in South Korea. He's supposed to land there 2:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Let's see if is there any other updates from Twitter here that we can get. I'm looking. Here's an update. This is from Breaking N Live. The UN Security Council will meet momentarily following the North Korean missile launch, the failed missile launch. So the UN Security Council is going to be meeting this evening about this missile launch. That's an update we have for you. And let's see here. I got a couple messages here. Bob Blair says, time to apply the Board of Education to the UN's seat of knowledge. That is Bob Blair. I'm trying to figure out exactly what I think there's different ways I could interpret that, Bob. So feel free to clarify if you want, or maybe you don't want to clarify. But I'm happy to read a clarification if you want. But that's what Bob Blair says. Bob Blair, thank you for writing in. And, so I think by board you mean like paddle board, and by seat you mean like rear end, maybe, Bob? Maybe? Anyways, thanks, Bob, for writing in. Ivan Romano says, who are the people giving us information about Korea? People who said Saddam had WMDs. Could this be misinformation? Well, I'm guessing, I guess in theory it could, but Ivan, I'm guessing that South Korea and American military have like radar and they have satellite cameras, and that they probably can actually see these missile attempts. So I'm pretty confident in the reports of this missile test attempt. Myself, Ivan. That's just my opinion. We have Loka Patata writes in, honestly, I don't think North Korea is going to do anything besides testing as long as the U.S. does not attack. There is a nuclear risk if they do. So what you're saying, Loka Patata, is look, they're going to test stuff, they're going to develop, maybe to keep developing their nuclear weapons to try to survive, but they won't actually use them. So the only way they'll use them, you think, is if we attack them. So you think, I'm thinking, Loco Potato, that we shouldn't attack them militarily because that's the only way they're going to use what they have. So interesting thought, Loco Potato. Thanks for writing in. Disc Detergent says, I am watching you live broadcast on YouTube. Thanks for watching, Disc Detergent. Anyway, I think World War III is on the horizon because Trump has to keep his image, and North Korea leader seems to not care regardless of what Trump says. If the U.S. shows any form of aggression toward North Korea, South Korea will either be attacked or the United States. If either country gets attacked, hello, World War III under Trump's presidency. Good job, Trump. Thank you, Disc Detergent, for writing in. So, one point you make here, which I think there's something to this, is you say, this is a good point, that you think that North Korea has to keep up their image, but President Trump does as well. So, it seems that North Korea is going to want to keep developing their weapons. Also, they want to keep developing their nuclear weapons as a survival tactic because they think if they have nuclear weapons, then they won't get, that's going to keep anyone from trying regime change there. But also, you say that President Trump has to keep up his image. And, it seems that given how the language that the rhetoric that the Trump administration has come out with the last couple of weeks and moving the aircraft carrier group next to the Korean Peninsula, they can't let. I'd be shocked if North Korea did several of these tests and the Trump administration just let it slide. It seems like at a certain point, once they start doing these tests again, after the implicit tests from implicit threats and explicit threats from America, that America's got to do something about it. Now, this is only one failed test, so maybe this is not the point at which America does something, but eventually it seems like America does need to do something or they will lose credibility. We'll see what happens. Thank you, Disc Detergent, for writing in. Let's see here. I got another message here I want to read. Bob Blair says he clarified that what he wanted to say was spank him. I know what I was confused about, Bob Blair. You said time to apply the Board of Education to UN's seat of knowledge. I thought you said UN and not UN. So you said time to apply the Board of Education to UN's seat of knowledge, and you meant spank him. Thank you, Bob Blair, for writing in. I get it, Kim Jong-un now. Sorry, I didn't get that before. We are covering here this breaking news. There was a I just thought I saw something on Twitter. There was a North Korean failed missile test. It happened a couple hours ago while Vice President Pence was on the way to South Korea. Vice President Pence is still flying there. No White House statement response to this yet, but both the American and South Korean militaries have confirmed there was a failed missile test from North Korea tonight. It happened a couple hours ago. We are giving you live coverage here. And I'm just looking for more news on Twitter. If you'd like to write me, and I'm also reading your comments and trying to answer your questions, you can write me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner, or direct message me at steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. We've had a report that the UN Security Council is going to meet tonight about this. And let's see here. I am trying to find new information. Oh, and Lars Anderson made another donation, his third one of 111 Swedish kroners. Thank you, Swedish krona. Thank you, Lars. And your comment this time was blow Fat Kim away. Thank you, Lars, for donating. Very much appreciated. Your donations keep us on the air. They keep Right Side broadcasting. For those of you tuning into Right Side broadcasting for the first time, normally I'm not in this room. Normally I'm in a nice news studio. Well, I mean, it's not fancy, but it looks like a news studio in Auburn, Alabama. But I'm traveling this weekend, so I'm coming to you via my iPad. But if you'd like to donate, your donations are greatly appreciated. Just click on the $sign at the bottom of the chat room next to the broadcast. And also, big thank you to the moderators for moderating the chat. There's been a chat going on the entire time I've been on the air tonight. And a big thank you to the moderators. And I do want to I want to keep this going for about a few more minutes here, because we're covering this. I might have to go in a few minutes. But while we're on the air, if you'd like to send in your comments, would love to hear from you. Direct message me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner, or email me at steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. Let's see here. I also want to check my email to make sure there's no email here. All right, there's some messages here. Can I ask you a favor? I'm going to do this. Let's see if I can make this happen. Hold on. I need to do this. I'm going to go away for about 30 seconds. Be back in 1 minute. So this says be back in 1 minute. Oh, can I make this actually happen? How do I do this? Let's see. There's be back in 1 minute. See, I'm gonna be back in 1 minute. Can I make this stand up? This is gonna be hard to do. Moderators, hold on. You're gonna see me walk out of here in 2 seconds, and I'm coming right back. So don't go away. I'll be back in 1 minute. Is that gonna do it? No. There's no way to do this. I'm trying to make this stand up. I can't do it. I can't do it, people. Oh, here it is. Watch this. I'm trying to make it say be back in 1 minute. Well, I can't get this up there. It says be back in 1 minute. I will be right back in 1 minute. So don't go anywhere. Coverage continues. Sorry about that. Very sorry. I am back. Have a few more minutes of coverage here. And a bunch of you wrote in. I want to get your emails. Claire writes in, hello, Steve. Thanks for your email. It is my gift to RSBN to use. Oh, sorry. Sorry. I'm reading an email about something else. That was a work email, not about this. So I did not want to read that one. My fault. There were some other emails about this breaking news. I want to read that right now. Let's see. Sorry, RSBN mail. There we go. Jerry and Mike, Mike Clonks write in, Steve, I appreciate you covering things this evening. I think B-52s could bomb all artillery positions, reducing harm to Seoul. So you're saying, if we do some attack, could we attack their artillery positions so that would reduce the amount of harm they could do to Seoul, South Korea, if North Korea attacked them? From what I understand, we couldn't bomb all their artillery positions, and that there is a definite risk to Seoul, South Korea and South Korea more generally from North Korean artillery if we do attack North Korea and they decide to fire at Seoul. So maybe we could reduce the amount of damage they could cause, but we can't totally eliminate the possibility of an attack on Seoul that would have a lot of damage happen, would cause a lot of damage to Seoul, South Korea. But thank you but we certainly could reduce it by attacking it. I'm sure that we have the military has these kind of plans. So thank you, Mike, for writing in. Doug Harris writes in, while it is easy to mock the North Korean leader and military, these boys are playing with big toys and operating out of very fallible human ego. I hope careful caution, solidly evaluated evidence, and restraint is exercised by the U.S. military and President Trump. After all, nuclear bombs can ruin your whole day. Kidding aside, I express a serious hope. Further, if North Korea pushes the line beyond tolerance, I believe we are in for a display of shock and awe, wherein they will be decimated by the U.S. I thank God that providence can and does rule the affairs of men, as taught in the book of Daniel. I am going to put you guys on a monthly donation. That's very nice of you, Doug. Thank you. Thanks, Doug, in Tucson, Arizona. Appreciate you writing in, Doug. And so Doug does say that he thinks our military should be cautious and show restraint. He thinks that he says they're playing with big toys, and but he is open. So Doug has a balanced view. He thinks that if North Korea, he says, pushes the line beyond tolerance, that we should attack them. But he wants some restraint. He doesn't want us to attack too soon because they do have a powerful military, that country, and once you start getting into militaries fighting each other, it can cause a lot of destruction. Bad things can happen. So appreciate your point, Doug. It sounds like you don't think there should be a response right away, Doug, and you think we should wait a little bit. Let's see. Mike Clonks writes in, I heard the dog. I bet he misses you when you are gone. I think he's fine. I'm not gone that long, and it's my parents' dog, not mine. But thanks, Mike. Also, he says, I think way too many are overreacting. So I think, Mike, what you mean is maybe you think we shouldn't attack North Korea yet, just because they had this one failed test. Appreciate you writing in, Mike. There's the dog again. Couple more messages here. Hugh Janus writes in. Oh, Hugh Janus writes in. Well, I said it. Thank you, Hugh, for writing in. You made me say it. You made me say it. Now, why do you do that to us here at Right Side Broadcasting? But I could have read your Twitter handle, which is ACMatthews1121. That's clean. My apologies to everybody out there. What's the odds of the U.S., and he wasn't even doing it as a prank because he wrote in a serious question. He wrote, what's the odds of the U.S. going to eat with North Korea and in China flip on us? All right. so I think there might be a typo here, but you're asking what is the odds of the U.S. going to kind of war or having some kind of military response to North Korea and China flip on us and defend North Korea? Thanks. Interesting question, C. Matthews 1121. Where does China stand on this? So what China doesn't want is China doesn't want a unified Korean peninsula, which is all like South Korea, and it's like a big democracy and everybody loves the United States there. That's China does not want. So I think if China felt that North Korea, that we were like going to take over North Korea and establish some kind of like American friendly state there, or like or we're going to hand over North Korea to South Korea, not that that's even possible, but you know what I'm saying. I think you could see Chinese resistance at that point. But there is this question of what does China do in response to all of this? Will China let it slide if we do some kind of initial military attack? But, will China threat? You don't know what China will do. And maybe China doesn't want to see North Korea turn and become more like South Korea. China also doesn't want to see North Korea be a failed state and have tons of refugees going over the border to South Korea, going over the border to China, which is on our northern border. So it's a good question how China will respond. And at some point, will they resist? Will they not want to have America intervening militarily too much in North Korea? I mean, imagine if Russia was intervening in Mexico, and you could see a world in which U.S. doesn't want that to happen too much. So I don't have a great answer for you, but I think that is a big X factor here, how China responds to any kind of U.S. military action if we take U.S. military action in North Korea. So thank you. Everything about that question was great. C. Matthews 1121, except that you had a Twitter handle which fooled me into saying naughty words, which I think was unintentional. Let's see here. Tommy Deplorable writes, if they do, I think Kim is suicide by World War III. You responded to my question as to my tweet about if they do a nuclear weapons test, and you think Kim is suicidal if he does one in the next few days. Let's see here. Okay, I have about 5 more minutes or so on the air, and then I'm going to get off. I will come back on later tonight if there is more news. I promise you that. If there's more news, I will do a late night live stream. I'm just going to do a quick check of Twitter here and see if there's any more news coming out. President Trump and Vice President Pence have spoken following the failed North Korean missile launch. We heard that. The Vice President was briefed on Air Force 2. We've heard that already. Not really seeing much new news come out. Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap it up from here. I just have some personal business I need to attend to. I would normally stay on a bit longer, but there are things I have to actually do. But I will. I'm not saying like family related things that I can't really avoid doing if I can avoid them. I'm being honest with you. I have a family engagement that I need to be at, which I'm not at right now because of this. So since there's no news coming out, new news at this moment, I will go off the air. But I appreciate all you watching and all of your comments. Thank you so much for that. And I will let you know that I will later tonight, if more news happens, I am happy to come on again, and we will come on the air and give you some kind of update if more news happens today or any time this weekend with North Korea. Thank you to the moderators for moderating. Thank you to Christine and Lars for your donations. Much appreciated. Thank you to all of you for watching and for writing in your comments. I'm always impressed with the comments and the questions people write in. And let's see, one last comment here. This is from I Found This Fish writes in, I wish we needn't attack North Korea, but as the years pass, the more technologically advanced they get, better them sooner than us later. And I do think there's something to be said for this view that I Found This Fish has, which is like, don't want to attack them, but the alternative eventually is letting them get nuclear missiles that can hit the United States, which seems like not a good thing. So that doesn't sound like a good thing. Maybe we've reached the point where we can't let them go on any longer. Maybe President Trump thinks that this has got to stop, and the only way to stop it will be taking military action. We'll see, so we'll keep an eye on this. But for now, thank you so much for joining us and for all of your participation in this breaking news update. I am Steve Lookner. This has been Right Side Broadcasting. Thanks again to the moderators. Hope you have a great evening, everyone, and I will maybe see you later tonight, but if there's more breaking news, I will see you later on this weekend. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.